It's finally here. The long-awaited remake of one of the most disturbing Resident Evil games. Disturbing. That's probably the word I'd use if any of you asked me to describe the original game in a single word. And I wouldn't use it as a negative thing, but with affection, despite what the game has put me through in the past. If only you could imagine how excited I am right now. What am I saying? Of course you can. If you're watching this video, chances are you're even more excited than dear William Birkin was after he finished G.
She is my creation!
Claire Redfield.
As we celebrate Claire Redfield's return, let's take a closer look at the announcement trailer revealed last night at Summer Game Fest 2026. Paris, the city of love, with its historic sites, its cuisine, its culture, and of course the Umbrella Corporation headquarters. This time, unlike the beginning of the original game, the adventure will begin in the cold streets of Paris, 3 months after the destruction of Raccoon City. It's barely visible, but you can make out the Umbrella logo on the imposing building in the background. Another nod to Umbrella comes in the form of a café called Café du Parapluie, which literally means Umbrella Café, perhaps a sign that Umbrella has a huge influence in this part of the world as well. There is another interesting detail worth mentioning. The car Claire appears to be driving is a Nissan Micra, but the real Easter egg is on the license plate. It reads 1126 SP75. 1126 is a reference to the code you get from the skeleton painting in the labs in the original game. I don't know if SP refers to anything in particular, but I can confirm that the number 75 corresponds to the first 2 digits of Paris's zip code. Claire arrives at the entrance of a Parisian apartment building, where she is greeted by the concierge. The concierge remarks that she must be the American who called earlier, the sister of the man of the 3rd floor. Notice how Capcom is revealing clues bit by bit to keep the audience on the edge of their seats. Everything now pointed to the reveal of the long-awaited remake. The concierge mentions Chris Redfield's odd behavior to his sister as she accompanies her to his apartment. An early indication that Chris is suffering from the same post-traumatic stress disorder as Jill Valentine at the beginning of the Resident Evil 3 remake. It seems Chris is just as disorganized as he was back when he worked at the RPD. The presence of a camera on the coffee table, along with the scattered photos and files, suggests that Chris was certainly in the middle of investigating Umbrella's Paris offices. Many of his personal belongings reflect his personality. He's a smoker, of course, as evidenced by the cigarettes and the famous lighter. Although I wonder if the lighter will serve any purpose in this reimagining of Code Veronica. A pack of capsules and some medication are scattered about, reinforcing the idea that Chris is also dealing with his own trauma following the incident at the Spencer mansion. There's nothing in particular to say about the Marquise's biscuits, except that they may be a nod to the nobility, to which the Ashfords certainly belong. A green plant, a beer of the same brand as the one featured in RE7, and some dumbbells are also clearly visible. Have you also noticed this painting, which is somewhat reminiscent of the painting in Spencer Manor? This work is also somewhat evocative of the manor in the very first Alone in the Dark. Claire was then lured outside the apartment, where she was attacked by a masked man. And the big reveal was finally here. The first images of Rockfort Island show a dark forest. If I had to guess, I think this is the path between the cemetery and the prison, which will likely be longer this time around and offer more opportunities for exploration. The next area reminds me of the hangar where Steve and Claire find themselves face to face with the teenager's zombified father. You know what I mean?
Father!
During these brief clips revealing the game's title, we catch a glimpse of Claire, who appears to be floating in the water. This certainly hints at events not seen in the original episode. The next shot shows a machine or console of some sort, with the Umbrella logo visible on the right side and a scan button below the screen. Perhaps this is the 3D printer used to create a key item in the original game. The screen reads, "Please insert your card." This room is difficult to identify, but it clearly illustrates the new direction this remake is taking by emphasizing darkness and the unknown. I think all these images are from the beginning of the game. The trailer shows us a new version of the scene where a dragonfly is fed to the ants after its wings have been torn off by the Ashford twins. Note that both insects have special significance in the game, not only through key items, but also through the characters. After another shot of the prison interior, we see the body of a guard who is still clutching his gun. This gun really reminds me of the M19 that Leon uses in RE2R's alternate scenario. The guard's uniform is also interesting because it bears a striking resemblance to a World War II Nazi uniform. And if you know a little about the development history of Resident Evil Code Veronica, you'll know that the Ashfords were originally supposed to be descendants of Nazis. How can one not think of a concentration and extermination camp when seeing these images? This is also where Claire meets Steve for the first time in the original game. It's entirely possible that Rockfort Island will be more explorable this time around. Rumors suggest a semi-open world that can also be explored via a motorcycle, which we could use to get from point A to point B. In fact, the game's Steam page clearly states that a motorcycle will be usable in some way. It looks like the rumor might actually be true this time. Next, we have a shot of the famous golden Lugers used by Steve, and as a key, note that the Lugers were also used by German soldiers. I wonder if Capcom will take the similarities even further in the remake. We see, without a shadow of a doubt, Steve from behind, likely after his encounter with Claire. In my opinion, Steve is the character who needs the most rewriting. Based on how he's portrayed, I imagine him as more of a loner this time around, rather than immature. The palace is simply magnificent. Reimagined using the Rex engine, Alfred's portrait still hangs at the top, and we see his silhouette in the next shot. I noticed that he seems to be wearing a different outfit than the one he's wearing in his portrait. Which is a good thing, because I was a bit taken out of the game when Alyssa Ashcroft in RE Requiem seemed to be wearing the same outfit a decade after Grace was adopted. Now I know what you're thinking. Hunk is back. However, I don't think it's Hunk for two reasons. First of all, it's not the voice of the actor who has always played Hunk, including this year in Resident Evil Requiem.
Not necessary. I'll neutralize the target myself.
Claire's appearance also reveals other interesting details. Her necklace seems to have been replaced with the same one worn by all the other prisoners there. I wonder if it's simply equipped with a tracking device, or if it's also rigged with explosives. Her official artwork on the Resident Evil Veronica website also shows that she will be equipped with dual holsters. This confirms that it will once again be possible to fire two weapons at the same time. There you have it. Resident Evil Veronica is coming out in 2027 on all platforms, including the Switch 2. We'll likely hear more about the game in the coming months at upcoming video game shows such as Gamescom and the Tokyo Game Show. But I think a Capcom showcase is also a possibility, given that Capcom has big projects in the works involving several of its flagship franchises. We might even see a reveal of the story DLC for Requiem. Of course, I'll keep an eye out for you, my dear survival horror enthusiasts. Thank you for watching this video. Well, it's safe to say we're right in the middle of Capcom's second golden age. Resident Evil, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary, is doing better than ever. We can only hope for another decade of great games. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, leaving a comment, or even sharing it. That would really help the channel get noticed by the algorithm again. I'm going back to play the original Resident Evil Code Veronica. Until next time, stay safe and remember to stay in the light.